What's it like to move from Europe to Mexico? For episode number 6, I invited Aaron, founder of BitcoinPartner.nl, to talk about his experience moving from the Netherlands to a beach town in Mexico. Aaron's perspective on life changed when he discovered Bitcoin only a few years ago. It wasn't until COVID lockdowns that he decided to move to a freer place on another continent. Aaron and I compared the fiat slave lifestyle in Europe to the sovereign individual lifestyle in Mexico. In this podcast, we interview Bitcoiners and expats in the Latin American region to talk about their stories and their projects. If you like this episode, please share it so others can enjoy the content too. Thank you for listening. Okay, well, thank you, Aaron, for joining me today on Bitcoin Expat Stories. I guess we met on Twitter. I was posting on Bitcoin in Mexico, that I'm in Mexico too, and I think you shared with me a couple insights around the fiscal details of an expat in Mexico. So, welcome to the show, Aaron. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you for inviting me. And think it's nice to do a podcast about living in Mexico, Bitcoin, because I think when I moved to Mexico, this is something I would love to listen to, because yeah, you want something to learn from other people and hear about the stories. So I think it's cool what you're doing. And yeah, I believe you're right. We shared some info on Twitter. So yeah, let's do the podcast, and I'm excited to do this.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's great. That's the goal of the podcast. To be a resource for people that are making the move, that have questions about it, and I think you'll provide answers to the people listening that will be good for them. So, well, before we get started on the fact that you live in Mexico, coming from Netherlands, maybe just tell us a bit about your story, about your background.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, the short story is my name is Aaron. I'm a Dutch guy. I believe in freedom, freedom for the individual. Yeah, so let's say, a freedom maximalist. I think I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. I'm also now an immigrant in Mexico. I'm involved in a few projects, Bitcoin Partner. I'm writing some articles for Bitcoin Focus. It's a Dutch newsletter from the guys behind the Dutch Bitcoin magazine. I'm involved in Find a VA. It's like a marketplace for virtual assistants and online entrepreneurs, online freelancers. And beside that, and I think most important of all, I'm the father of my daughter, and the partner for my wife. And my background is in logistics. I used to have a logistic background. That was my fiat life, and I quitted it all. And yeah, I'm now living like a free life in Mexico and trying to work on Bitcoin adoption and a free world, so to say.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for that. So if I understand correctly, you used to work in logistics, but now you're having more and more involvement into the Bitcoin world, or at least like the tech space. You mentioned Finda, if I recall correctly, the name. It's like a marketplace for virtual assistants, and you work on Bitcoin Partners. Is that your project, Bitcoin Partners?
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe some background. When I moved to Mexico, I didn't have my fiat job anymore, and I thought, okay, I'm going to take a sabbatical. I'm going to go to Mexico with my wife, and we're just going to see how things play out. If any opportunities arise, we're just going to jump in. But we just wanted to have a period in our life that we could enjoy freedom, that we didn't really feel that much in Europe anymore, and we did experience it in Mexico. and I wanted to land a Bitcoin job because I had this, like, let's say, vision that everything was online. You can work from everywhere in the world, work on every product you want, as long as you have the capabilities to do so. And then I found out that we came into the Bitcoin bear market, and the only opportunities that were, still hiring people were crypto, Web3, all these, let's say, scam projects that they seem to have a lot of money to continue working in the bear market. That's not what I wanted to do. Then I said, okay, I'm gonna. Or I found out my wife was pregnant, so we said, okay, we're gonna have to be productive again. We're gonna have to abort our sabbatical and make sure that when our daughter is born, we have a few projects ready and up and running, we can do something productive for society. So that's when I got the idea to found Bitcoin Partner. And that's basically a website where I hope to gather information, write articles about Bitcoin, to give people that are new to Bitcoin one place where they can find everything they need from a reliable source. So I also gather a partner network with high quality Bitcoin companies. So there's Blockstream, Coldcard, and many other companies that I tried myself and I trust. So that new people, let's say pre-coiners or new coiners, have an easy way to jump into Bitcoin without having to weed through all the scams and the crypto nonsense. And Find a VA, that's basically the project of my wife. She recognized that a lot of people are working online, and there's not really a good marketplace where people that are working online can showcase their professional skills and where clients can easily find them. So we build a website where virtual assistants and online freelancers can create a profile, showcase their skills, and clients that can easily find them and hire them. And I think the beauty about it is that it doesn't really matter where you're located or who you are. It's all about your professional skills and how much value you can add to another person. And I think that fits perfectly into the Bitcoin vision, where you can cooperate with somebody from Japan if you're located in Mexico, or from the Netherlands to somebody in New York. It doesn't really matter as long as you are delivering high quality products or services. Yeah, that's basically.
Yeah, for sure. It makes total sense.
Yeah, and I also wanted to get more involved in the Bitcoin scene, so I started contributing to Consensus Network. I'm not sure if you're familiar with these guys. They translate let's say the Bitcoin books from the languages that they've been written into the local languages. So it's like a starfish organization. There's not really like a leader or management. Everybody's just doing their part of the project, and together you make sure that the books are translated into your language.
Oh no, I had never heard of that. So you're participating in the translation of some Bitcoin content?
Yeah, like The Price of Tomorrow from Jeff Booth. That's
nice.
now
Well,
available.
That's good, bud.
Yeah, exactly. So I believe that it's important for people that are maybe a little bit too lazy to read English books or too intimidated to read these kind of books in their own language. So you can find the Bitcoin Standard in Dutch now, the Fiat Standard, The Price of Tomorrow, the book from Knut, Everything Divided by 21 Million. I think it's just important that to see that all the information that is available about Bitcoin is also available in local languages. So the barrier for entry is a lot lower for people.
Sorry for that. Yeah, that's extremely important. So I've been doing my part on that in French as well, but it's great that there's people like you doing their part on Dutch, which is a very important thing for Bitcoin. Okay, so that's cool. You got a few projects. Your wife's a virtual assistant marketplace. Your Bitcoin partner and like an education and affiliate website for Bitcoin. Is everything on Bitcoin Partner in Dutch, or is it
Yeah, the website's
in
in Dutch.
English?
Yeah, but I did translate the page to English, but I still need to translate all my articles and I'm just building. I mean, I started the project. What was it in September? I'm doing everything by myself, so yeah, it takes a lot of time to build something, and I need to put everything on the website and yeah, with the other projects on the side, and I also want to enjoy my life and not only work 100% of my time on Bitcoin. Um, yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
That's great. All right. Well, while we're on the topic of Bitcoin, maybe you could tell us about your like introduction story to Bitcoin. How did you get into the rabbit hole?
Yeah. Yeah, at the time I was working as a sales guy in logistics, and I used to travel a lot. So there was this one evening I was in Paris in a hotel, and I like the years before that I always had the feeling there's something wrong with the system. There's something that's just not right. I couldn't find the exact pain point, but I had the feeling that something wasn't correct, right? I mean, sometimes you get a raise, you just don't have the feeling that your buying power is really increasing with the same amount. Um, and I was thinking about, okay, I need to, you have the fiat mindset, right? You're like, oh, I need to be rich. I need to be rich. I need to find my way out of this rat race, and I need to find some more time to spend on things that I enjoy instead of working. And then you start, Googling stuff like, how do I get rich? And I don't even know how I came onto Bitcoin, but somehow I landed on a Bitcoin site. And after reading a few of these articles, like, oh my God, that I didn't knew this before. I think it was 2018 that I bought Bitcoin. Just like, I need to buy some, just in case it catches on, right? Because I heard about it in 2013. And then it was like, yeah, we are all too late. It's a bubble.
Right.
The normal normie
For
stories.
sure.
And I really had the feeling I was too late, and it was like over. And okay, and then it came back again and again and again. And every time I was like, I'm too late now. I'm too late now. And eventually, you really started learning about what it is, and then you just cannot let it go. You get like sucked into it. And I think it's because it's money. Money touches every aspect of human in society. Everything that we do is driven by incentives, and everything is touched by money, basically, because money allows us to create more time for ourselves and to spend it the way we really want to. And that's the moment that you're going to the rabbit holes like health, food, your job, your career, your family, your free time, software. Basically, all the things that a lot of Bitcoiners are interested in, philosophy. It just sucks you in. And yeah, maybe I should pause there.
Yeah, well, for sure, it really does, right? It completely changes your life and your perspective of basically anything, and it does it like slowly but surely, and at some point it just does it gradually, like just
Yeah.
everything at once. So, and this was still when you were living in Netherlands, that's right?
Yeah. That was when I was living in the Netherlands. That was like 2018. I bought some Bitcoin, but really not that much, just in case it catches on, and just to see what it was. I forgot about it, and then in 2020, I read about it again. Okay, 2019, I read about it again, and that was the moment that it really sparked my fire, and I was like, oh my God, I need to do something about it or with it. I need to be really sure that I'm not making any mistakes, or that I completely understand this correctly. And yeah, that's where you enter the rabbit hole, because I don't think you can really understand Bitcoin. You cannot really understand its implications, the impact it has on your life, on everything around you. And now it's 2023 and I live in Mexico. So
Yeah,
it
well, tell us how that happened. How did you decide to move to Mexico? Was it a decision like you decided Mexico, or you look into many countries? Tell us about that story.
Yeah, well, why Mexico? It was basically I always wanted to live abroad, so I wanted to experience living in a different culture, learning a different language, do something completely different than I've been doing my entire life. But the problem is you don't have any money to do that, right? You need either an online job or you need to have like a shitload of money, or you need something that enables you to do something like that. And then COVID hit. In the beginning, I was like, okay, so we are dealing with a serious pandemic, and I think it was like maybe 2 months in. I was like, yeah, something is not right. Something is really not right.
Right.
Really couldn't understand what. I was like, yeah, why would somebody, I mean, lie about what's going on or exaggerate what's going on? And then, yeah, you got the vaccine stuff, and I think the whole political climate in the Netherlands changed. The business environment changed in the Netherlands. Everything went online. Everybody started working online, and I was working at my kitchen table every day. And I was like, yeah, okay, so is this life, right? Is this how I envision to be a human on this time on this planet? Sitting in behind my kitchen table, and I was living in a big city in Rotterdam. And yeah, I mean, we even had a curfew in the Netherlands. I don't know if you know about it, but there was
I
some
didn't know
point.
about that.
Yeah, they didn't allow you to go outside in the evening, like after 8 o'clock. You were just not allowed to go on the streets. And then I was like, okay, if something is really dangerous, I can really decide for myself if I want to take the risk or not. I don't need to have a government to do that for me.
Of course.
And yeah, I was like, okay, so if a government thinks that they can make decisions about my life, this is not my government. This is not the location where I want to spend the rest of my life. I mean, if they can do it now, what are they going to do in the future, right? You never know.
For
So,
sure.
yeah, you start talking with your partner, like, okay, is this the life we want to live? And I have to say, my wife was not really a fan of moving abroad. And I can totally understand that, right? I mean, you have your life, you have your family, you have everything, your professional life, your network, everything is around basically the location where you live. But yeah, I think what did it for her was also like the business environment changed. There's a really insecure business environment if a government can shut down entire sectors with regulations, and you're working in that sector, you get hit like economically, right? And she had an online platform in the restaurant business, so basically, her business slowed down, no income anymore. She couldn't work, and that was for her also a moment. It was like, okay, if we have to live abroad and we want to do your dream, right? Why not now? Uh, so yeah, there came a point where we both said, okay, this is our line in the sand. Uh, let's say society crossed the line, and we made a decision. Okay, we're gonna move to a place where we don't have to vote our way out. We're just gonna change locations to a place where we can feel at home and feel that we are in charge of our own decisions. And then you start comparing countries, right? I mean, where was the freedom? There was not that much freedom going on in the world anymore.
No,
Um,
there wasn't.
no, and then I mean Latin America, Central America, basically came on top. I mean the entire Europe was. It, I mean, maybe it's exaggerated, but it started to feel like a prison, right? I mean, you couldn't go to Italy without people saying that you were not allowed to travel that far and stuff like that. I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
for
but
sure.
yeah, that's not anybody's decision to make. That's my decision to make. And if I want to take the risk and I make the wrong calculation, okay, I'm gonna die, or that's my decision, not society's decision. And yeah, I mean, online you see all the stories about Central America and the people there just living on the streets. And Mexico was one of the countries that stood out. I think it's because a lot of places were still open in Mexico. There's like an open culture, more freedom culture, at least from what I could sense on the internet. There's an affordable cost of living, so the money that we had could last us like longer than in Europe, because Europe's pretty expensive. I also had the feeling, okay, inflation is going to get worse in the coming years, so we're going to have to make financially smart decisions. Um, I mean, you also need to be sure that you can live in a country, so you need to have the opportunity to get residency. That's not that difficult in Mexico for people from Europe, at least. I think there's better food security in Mexico.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, tax benefits. Tax benefits in Mexico compared to Europe are, to be honest, crazy. If you consider that in Europe, I mean, at least in the Netherlands, for some people, they live 7 months in the year. They work for the government. 7 months of their 12-month salary goes straight to taxes, and that's crazy.
It's
That's
crazy,
really crazy.
you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
just to give my insight here, well, my story in the first episode, Matt checks, and the third episode, Tristan's, and even the second, and even the fifth that I just released last week, it was all around the same time. It was all the same story because we also had curfew in Quebec from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. for months. We also work 7 months a year for the government. It's basically the same story, right? And at some point, you're just like, is this worth it? And I just think the answer is no. It's not worth it.
no, no, really no. And especially, I mean, if you are like a customer in your country and you pay that much in taxes and you get like things in return for that. I mean, and I'm not like pointing out that there's good roads in the Netherlands. I mean, that's not what I think that taxes are for. Um, you start thinking about if, for example, 5% inflation over 14 years, that means that your buying power halves. So think about if you can live in a different country in the world where you don't have to pay that much in taxes, how much that's gonna save you in money over like 10 years or 15 years.
It's a tremendous amount of money, and
It's tremendous
just
amounts of money. Yeah,
and even if and on top of that, the cost of living is lower. So like
yeah,
you're saving money on that, and you're saving money on taxes. It's
exactly. Yeah,
and you're just saving. It's not just about money, It's about mental health too. I imagine you just feel better living here than you did at that point in the Netherlands, right?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, imagine when I used to work at my kitchen table every day. I had sun on my balcony from like in the morning when it rose to 11 in the morning, and you know, it's cold in the Netherlands. It rains a lot in the Netherlands. And here, I mean, my hamaka is in my front door. I put open my laptop and I drink my coffee. I watch the sea. I see palm trees everywhere. Yeah, I mean, it's nature. I live in nature basically. And in the Netherlands, I lived in the city,
Yeah.
so I only saw concrete and pigeons maybe. But when I open the door in Mexico, I have the feeling I'm in the world, right? In nature.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
It's hard not to be happy in that context.
Yeah, and I mean, if I went to like the supermarket in the Netherlands, people walk on the street, look into the floor, nobody smiles. And when I'm driving to the supermarket in Mexico, I see everybody's like smiling, waving, people are happy. And I think it's because like people are individually more happy. It's not about the money, I guess, because I don't think that people have like a luxury life. But I think they own their time more, and I mean they can spend more time with friends and family the way they want it than the people in the Netherlands, I guess. And I mean, people in the Netherlands, they get home from work, they eat something, and then they sit behind TV all evening watching Netflix. I mean, it's not really making you smarter. It's not making you happy. It's not anything productive. It's not that you're adding something to society. And people here live on the streets, and yeah, I think that makes you more happy, more yeah. It's different. It's
Yeah,
completely different than people in Europe. Yeah, for sure.
so different. Interesting. So, well, my follow up question would be, what was the like? Was this a perspective shared by your life partner? Was she, or did she have other points of view, other things that she considered before moving to Mexico? Like, I'm just trying to understand her point of view compared to yours, because I'm sure many listeners will make the move with their wives, and there will be a different perspective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. She had a totally different view on life than me when we first met. I mean, when I moved in with her, she was watching the news every morning, stuff like that. And I think during our relation, we watched TV less and less and less. Now we don't watch any TV at all anymore. I mean, talking to each other is so much more important than like mindlessly watching Netflix series. But she had a different view in life. She was on a different place as well. She was really ambitious. She had her own platform. She had high positions in the industry where she was working. She was asked just before we left to fill in like really big positions for two different companies. So she was on the edge, like, okay, am I going to choose for my career, or am I going to choose for like the vision that my partner has and enjoy the life that he thinks that we can live? Because she wasn't that sure, right? And I mean, it's difficult, right? I mean, you have to change your complete perspective about the world. I already had done that a few years before the COVID, like let's say the pandemic and everything happened, and she basically fell right into it when everything stopped, like life went to a halt. So, but I have to say, she adapted. She was open to new ideas, new. She was open to talk about new opportunities that we could fulfill. And I mean, she really did it great. And we also think that it's not like for a female, it's not like her life purpose to be an ambitious career woman. We now believe both that it's so much more important for a female to be able to produce a life like she has done. She got pregnant. She got my baby, and I'm so incredibly proud that I have somebody in my life that can give me a present like a baby. And yeah, that's a completely different life and a different role in the family than be a career woman. And I mean, she still wants to work. She still wants to be a productive, like, member of society. But she also understands that it's so much more fulfilling to be a mom and to be like the center of her family. And yeah, not a lot of people in the Netherlands are open to that idea because there's like this feministic mindset, and females have to be the same as men, and they have to do the same career things and the same opportunities. And I mean, I don't think that they cannot do it, but I don't think it's their life purpose. And yeah, she did great. I mean, I'm really proud of her in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's great. By the way, congratulations on that, on the fact of that your father and you have a family. Yeah, well, I tend to agree with you on that. I feel like society has gone to the other extreme, where it used to be that women were forced to just have the mother role, and then they wanted freedom, which is obviously correct and makes sense. But then it has gone to the other extreme, where it's actually like, no, you gotta do the work, you gotta do the career
Yeah.
path, else you're not fulfilling yourself. And for many people, like, it's not true. It's not fulfilling to work like at a big corporate job where
No.
you provide basically little value, and you
Yeah.
just waste your time and years in that. So yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But let's say about So, but were there considerations regarding like security or just like, is Mexico a good place to raise a family? Less from the lifestyle and like tax perspective.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. I think we really wanted to live in a female-friendly country. There's a lot of countries in the world where that are not that female-friendly, or when I would not be comfortable to let my wife walk out in the street when it's dark. And maybe even in Mexico, there are places where you really shouldn't do that, and where it's really not smart to do that. So we really didn't really focus on the country, but on like the location. Which locations are safe, and which locations do we feel that it's
Right.
safe to go outside, and it's safe for her to have her own life without like having a bodyguard, or because that's
Yeah.
also not a free life, right? I mean, she has to be able to enjoy a free life. And I think basically the place where we live now is a very safe place. The people are really friendly. And I mean, is there really any place in the world where it's like in the utopia where you're like completely 100% safe and 100% sure that nothing will ever happen to you? And that I don't think that there's a place in the world where that exists, right? Um,
For sure.
so you have to like balance like what are the things that we think are important, and then you just like prioritize. Okay, what do we think is important? And Mexico is ranking pretty good. I mean, in the West, people think that Mexico is like this extremely dangerous drug country, and people are all poor and all thieves and stealing and scammers. And I mean, if you travel, you learn that that's just complete bullshit. Also, the people that in the Netherlands, it's amazing. Basically, the older people. When you say, "Oh, I'm going to Mexico," they're like,
Yeah.
"Are you going to Mexico? Oh, wow, oh, that's really dangerous." And then you're like, "Oh, wow. I mean, did you experience that? Have you been there?" "Oh, no, no, no. I would never go there." So, I mean, and
Yeah.
that's all like the things they read in the newspapers and in the stories on the news, and it's not an experience, right? And I think you have to experience life. And both me and my wife did that. We traveled a lot. We went to like Asia, Latin America, all over Europe. And I have to say, there were places in Europe where I felt extremely more unsafe to live outside or walk outside in the streets after dark than in Mexico. Um, and I
Yeah.
mean, what are other
That makes
perspectives
sense.
like education? You mean like if you have the idea that there's a possibility that you can have a family? Um, the education system in the Netherlands, I'm not a fan of that. I think it's like yeah, it's an old system, and it's not designed for the new age. And I believe that we are entering a new age, a digital age, where things are completely different than when the education system was like formed. And for example, if you live in the Netherlands, your kid has to go to school, and you're not allowed to travel within school periods. And there's a teacher that's like the authority in the class and teaches your kid how life works. And I mean, your kid is not really allowed to have his own opinion. You're considered smart when you're able to remember stuff and repeat. And I don't think that's the education that I would want to have for my daughter. I, I have many years to think about it, and I think education is going to change. But we have access to the internet, and the internet's changing everything. When you look back to when, I don't know if you know the story about like the Protestant Reformation in Europe.
Yeah, a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah, well, I'm not an expert on that, but it's basically like the church in Europe had a lot of influence back in the days. So the church was like the state. They were the boss. They decided how things were rolling, basically. And I think one of the things that played a role was that people couldn't read, right? So if somebody from the church told you, "Hey, you're not allowed to do this because hey, God is telling you this or that, and this is in the Bible, and you're not allowed to do this because it's in the Bible," I mean, you believe it, right? You want to be a good person. And I think you can draw a lot of similarities to how people were watching the news these days. The news is like telling you what's going on in the world, what's dangerous. I mean, Mexico's dangerous. um, and then back in the days, they invented like the printing press, and that allowed people to learn to read. Books were suddenly available for a lot of people, and they found out, okay, we have a lot of information to our disposal, and I mean, the people are lying to us, right? The church is lying. So people in Europe like abandoned the church. There was a Protestant Reformation, and people started to live their own life basically, and decide what they thought was like how they had to live their lives. And then the role of the state came in. The government took over basically, and was that led to where we are now. And I think the internet is playing the same role as the printing press, and because the internet, because of the internet, we can share information instantly globally. So if we have information in Mexico, we can send it within a second to people in the Netherlands. And I think that a lot of people are waking up to the fact that not everything that's on the news is correct. Not everything is an honest story. I mean, I'm not saying they're all lies, right? But it's not the truth either.
Right.
So on the internet, you can at least verify what you've been told and verify if information is correct, and do a little bit of more of your own research. And eventually the internet led also to Bitcoin, and I think it's gonna unravel a lot of opportunities for society that we have no idea what we are up to right now.
For sure, for sure. Well, I really like your metaphor comparing, the past of the Netherlands and Europe in general, where the church used to control society, and then like the printing press created like a liberation of knowledge, and how the internet is doing the same thing today. And yeah, I agree. I tend to see have the same perspective, and to notice the same change. But it's I think the internet has it's a double-edged sword in a way where, like, yes, it liberates some people, but it pushes some other people further into control, and like a slavery mentality. So
Yeah,
it's a bit tricky there.
yeah. No, and that's completely true. And that's why I really like the Bitcoin movement, because what I learned from Bitcoin is that open source software can be verified. I mean, I'm not a coder or anything, so I really cannot do it myself. But at least there's more social proof that things work and things can be trusted. And I mean, Microsoft. If you have a Linux computer, I trust that more now than a closed source Microsoft operating system. And I have things like Start9 with the embassy. I don't know if you know about these guys. So they basically
Yeah,
have,
sure.
their personal servers. So you run an operating system, the embassy OS. You run it on your own Raspberry Pi, and you can run open source software on it that you can basically verify, or the community can verify. And I think that's the other side of the double-edged sword, that it also liberates people. So people can be controlled because of the internet, and be told what to do. And the other side is that people can liberate themselves by using the right tools. So if you can use tools that will liberate you in the right way, you have a big difference compared to the people that are just mindlessly living their lives, just watching the news. And I mean, you can now like a simple example, you can run your Bitcoin node on a Raspberry Pi. You can run your password manager on your Raspberry Pi, and it's all self-hosted, so nobody even knows that you're running it. And that's something of the internet software, the microchip that enables a different kind of future than like the tech monopoly future that we thought we were going to have.
For sure. Yeah, that's really good. I agree with that. Well, I'm just going to go back to something you said previously. So I've noticed that in Europe, the perspective on Mexico is very different from like in Canada and the United States. So like at least Canadians and Americans go often to Mexico, so they see that it's not all danger. Of course, they don't fully understand it. Like they think but it's worse than it is. But in Europe, many people I've talked from Europe, they all say like, no, Mexico's extremely dangerous. Like I'm
Yeah,
gonna get killed if I go there, you know.
yeah,
And then they come here and they're like, no, it's actually not true.
yeah.
I've been lied to my whole life.
Yeah, no, really. But it surprises me that people from the US and Canada have a different view. But you know, if you talk about Mexico to people in the Netherlands, I mean, young people that travel, they know, right? I mean, they've been to places, they experienced it, and you have to be like street smart. Yeah, you shouldn't be like involved in you know shady people and maybe in drug activities. I mean,
Of course.
that's maybe a place where you shouldn't be, and then maybe life can be dangerous in Mexico, right? But to give you an example, I think a few months ago there was this like gang violence somewhere, a few states up north.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, you know about it, and I think it's like maybe even a day driving in the car, right? I mean, it's completely on the other side of Mexico from where I live, and because it was everywhere on the news in the Netherlands, people were texting me like, "Are you safe? Are you
Yeah.
are you okay? What's going on over there in Mexico?" I'm like, "Come on, guys. I'm not gonna text you if somebody gets robbed in southern Italy, right? I mean,
Or in Ukraine, you know, like it's
in
basically
Ukraine,
as far, you know.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the moment that people realize, yeah, okay, it was maybe a strange approach, but in their mind, it's like Mexico is dangerous, and yeah. So some people also told me it's like you don't want to be a high tax state, telling people that they can live in basically a country where the weather is great, the people are nice, they have beautiful beaches, blue seas, that everything is fine over there. There
Right.
must be some kind of element to scare people. But you can better live in the Netherlands and pay high taxes because we take care of you, right?
Exactly. Well, I don't think it's like an intended like message, but I think it's just part of the whole narrative, you know,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first world narrative that like if you live in the first world, you're safe, like it's worth it, you know.
yeah,
So like because if you live in Mexico, it's full of violence and crime and problems and wars, you know, and like the rest of the world is bad and we're the good guys, you know. It's always
yeah,
the same message for the first world, like we're the good guys
yeah,
and we're the good countries and the rest of the world isn't. And I think it's just it's a narrative. It's like a geopolitical like Second World War narrative, you know, like we won the Second World War, so that the narrative was built to
yeah.
basically like guide the next era, you know. But it's starting to there's just too many cracks at this point on that narrative, and people are just starting to see that it's quite false.
Yeah, and I think that's because of the internet. I mean, I would have never considered like moving to the other side of the world when I didn't have any access to the internet. I didn't have any access to people living here, people telling me how it was like. I mean, people can listen to this podcast. They can make up their own reality, right? I mean, they can experience it. They can take a plane, go on a holiday, see what it's like, and it wasn't always like that. And now people have this opportunity, and if you take it and you experience it, I think you must be crazy to live in a country where you are taxed 7 months of the year, where you can pay 3% income tax over money that you earn abroad, in a global digital business environment where we have a completely borderless money, where we don't even need any government anymore. Why would you stay in a place like that? And then you're gonna end up like, okay, why wouldn't you? And then like the negatives of Mexico can kick in. Like, why wouldn't you want to live in Mexico?
Right.
And I mean, there's a lot of reasons to think of why you wouldn't want to live in Mexico, because it's far away from friends and family. Um, Especially for my wife, that was really, really difficult. You don't, you have the feeling that you're not part of her social circle anymore, and that can feel really lonely. And you have to outweigh the benefits with the negatives to see if it's really worth it for you. And you know that there's also like little things, like there's a lot of mosquitoes here, right? So you have to close the windows. have the mosquito screens. You cannot just open the doors just in the evening because you're gonna get bitten like crazy. What are other negatives of Mexico? There's not really reliable internet here. That's if you want to work online, you really need to plan the task you're doing because you're not sure that you're gonna have internet for a full day. Electricity is not really reliable. We live in a hurricane area, so like in raining season, there could be hurricanes. So last year we had that, and we had no electricity for I believe 2 days, no internet for 2 days, and it's such an experience for
Wow.
you
Yeah.
because you have no fan, you have no air conditioning, you have no fridge. So I like to have like some food in the house, so I put some meat in my freezer. Uh, but yeah, what are you going to do when the freezer runs out of electricity, right? And all these things that really make you realize the luxury that people have in the Netherlands. People in the Netherlands cannot imagine how it's like to not have electricity, uh, to not have internet. That's really strange for them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I just want to specify that, like, it's this specific region you live in Mexico that is like that, because I live in Querétaro in the center of Mexico, and like it's a very dry climate, so like most of the time there's just no mosquitoes at all. It's
Oh,
kind of a
really?
desert. Yeah, and internet and electricity here, it's great. Like it's as good as in Canada.
Yeah,
But like not for everyone. Of course, that's the difference. I think it's just not for everyone. Like in my neighborhood, it's very good, but then the neighborhood next door, they seem to run out of electricity and stuff, because it's an unequal country in the end, right?
yeah,
But I think what you were saying, we should specify that it's about like beach town, beach regions,
yeah,
which have a humid climate, and also like less infrastructure, and it's also like part of the southern Mexico too.
yeah.
Not like, because northern Mexico is more developed and has like better infrastructure than the south.
Yeah, no, exactly. I live in the southern part of Mexico, and yeah, that's also one of the things. Like Mexico has many different climates, many different regions, province or states, and you really have to make up your own mind. Where do I want to live? I believe you can even ski and snowboard in Mexico. You can live on the beach. You can live in the mountains. You can live near a lake. There's so many things where you can build your life. And yeah, we now live near the sea, but I mean, who knows? Maybe we're gonna check out Querétaro when my wife is done with all the mosquitoes here. But
Yeah,
then you have to trade it for like no beaches.
exactly. It's always a trade off, right?
Yeah,
Well, you're always welcome, or whenever you wanna visit. But like, let's. What did you? My next question would be like, before you chose the spot you're living, and did you travel through the country, try different places, or at least research different places? Like, what made you choose that town, that place precisely?
uh, one of the reasons was that what I understood, like from Telegram groups and people on Twitter and like blogs and stuff. I did some research. We didn't just get in a plane and just move to the other side of the world. We also went on a holiday here
Right.
just to see if this is really feels like the place. Um, I think it's because like there's food security here. I can just go into the village here and shake a rancher's hand and just buy my meat directly from the rancher. I
Right.
can go to like somebody who has a mango, how do you call it, like farm, and just buy my mangoes. There's like food everywhere in the state. Um, what was your question again? I lost my chain of thought.
Well, my question was, why did you choose the place you're living in, precisely the city
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
at?
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. What I understood like was that because I saw how many influence the government has on your life in the Netherlands, and how it's enforced. I wanted to live in a place where there's less control. So I could move to Mexico City. But I think in Mexico City there's a lot more control from the government on people's lives than in a little beach
For
town.
sure.
So what I understood is that you have like a federal government in Mexico, and then you have a state government, but then you also have like the municipalities, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's just they make local decisions that are good for the local people, and that was something for me that was like, okay, maybe if we live in a place like that, there's less chance that something is happening that affects our life because of a decision that we don't agree with. Because yeah, you can try to vote your way out of things and like keep voting, but I believe that if you want to have a life that um, is most compatible with the way you envision to live your life, then you can just choose the place in the world where the values of the people that are living locally align with how you see the world. And I think that's pretty much here the, 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 the deal. People are just, I mean, if you want to close your business, you can close your business. If you don't, you don't. And that's, I think, more a personal decision here than, for example, in Mexico City or in the Netherlands. If you don't close your business in the Netherlands, you get like crazy fines if the government says so. And I don't think that's really a thing here. I mean, that's my perspective, right? I mean, I can be totally wrong, but at least it's an improvement compared to where I lived.
Yeah, well, actually, I agree with you, and I think it's accurate that like Mexico is a very localism in Mexico is very strong. Even I would say even stronger than the United States, which is very proud about that. Like Mexico, like there were some times where like lockdowns were introduced at the state level in Mexico, and a lot of municipalities just did not apply it. They just they have the power to just refuse state law.
Yeah,
Yeah, usually small towns, beach towns are the freest you can be in this country. Because yeah, if you go to Mexico City or even where I'm in Querétaro, yeah, the government's pretty strong, which has some advantages in terms of like business and like creating like a strong economy for this country. But
yeah,
the downside is, yeah, sure, there will be more rules in a big city than in a small beach town. Which, however, you can always get around the rules basically anywhere in the country because there's always ways. But in general, beach towns are the freest you can be in this country, or just towns in general, because some rural towns are very free too. It doesn't have to be beach. But yeah, I totally get your point. That's completely valid.
yeah. But exactly what you say. It's good that you pointed out that there's always ways in Mexico to get your things done. That's something. I joke about it here. As long as you have your CFE bill, it's like your electricity bill. You can get everything done.
Right.
And I think it has like its charm, right? People are not really that much into the rules. There are rules, but they are not that strict. For example, in the Netherlands, there's no way you can get a driver's license without taking the exams. And in Mexico, you can find some ways to do these things, right?
For sure.
Yeah. And another thing, if you really don't like how your municipality is dealing with the rules and regulations, there's so many different places in Mexico where you can just relocate and just try a new life, to build a new life. And yeah, I think the world is digital now. You can travel as much as you want and work online. So you can travel to the Netherlands whenever you want and work online, generate income. And also, if the people from the Netherlands, your social environment, want to visit you, you have a lot of time to hang out with them. They are in like a holiday vibe. So let's say the quantity of the time you spend with your friends and family is lower, but the quality is much higher.
Right. Right. I totally agree with that. That's good. Yeah. Well, the localism thing that you mentioned is that you can just move anywhere in Mexico, compared to like in Canada. It's honestly just laws apply across the country in a
Yeah,
very similar fashion. And I'm sure in Netherlands it's the same thing. It's like
exactly the
you
same.
can
Yeah,
move around, but like it will catch up with you. You can run, but you cannot hide. In a way.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. So yeah, and then it's it's up to you. You want to vote your way out, or you want to take responsibility over your life, and just have a very critical look on the aspects in your life that you think are important, and start taking responsibility and the right actions to like force your life into that direction. And that's completely possible in Mexico, as per my experience so far. I mean, I can be
Exactly.
totally
Exactly.
wrong, right? I mean, I live here now a year. Maybe I'm like completely wrong, and I also tell my wife like, if we made the wrong decision and we did something stupid, we just take the plane back home. And worst case scenario, we're gonna live with my mom on the attic again, and try something new.
Yeah.
But so
There's
far,
really little downside.
yeah, there's really little downside. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and my wife sometimes says, yeah, well, in the Netherlands you have like multicultural food, and we have food from like Turkish people and Indian food and Suriname food, Indonesian food, and you don't have that much multicultural foods in Mexico. I think the Mexican food culture is pretty dominant. But on the other hand, that's also a double-edged sword because the Mexican food is really good as well.
Yeah, definitely Mexican food's very good. So if you could resume what like the downsides, I heard mosquitoes, heard bad internet and electricity, processing your region, and then now I hear like lack of international food. Is there anything else that, because this is a question that I just get a lot, and far from friends and family.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would add to that list?
Well, yeah. Well, I think those basically sum it up. And one of the things that can be for European people really frustrating is that everything is mañana. So if you make an appointment with like the plumber or the electrician, or somebody that needs to come to your house in any way, it's like, yeah, we come mañana, or like on Tuesday 4 o'clock, and they just don't show
Right.
up. And that's really something that Europeans need to prepare for, because in Europe, if you make an appointment, or at least in the Netherlands, you make an appointment, you are there. And if you're not there,
Right.
you really have to call or inform the people that you're not coming. Mexicans just don't do that; they just don't show up.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and if you can, how do you say that in English? Like, if you mentally prepare that this is the way of life, then it's not a problem. But if you're like really strict and really waiting for these people, then it can be frustrating. Yeah,
For sure. Well, honestly, I would say on that I think it also applies more to the beach lifestyle, because in the beach people are so relaxed. They're
yeah,
like, like I don't have to work today. I'm like,
yeah,
weather's good, food's around, food's cheap. Because in the big city, I think it's a bit more. People are more hardworking and more like they will make the meetings they set up to. But in general, Mexican culture, people are late. People skip scheduled meetings. Yeah, that happens.
yeah.
It's part. You gotta accept that. It's true.
Yeah, but yeah, if that's the downside, then the upside is that life is really relaxed. The people are really relaxed, and
Exactly.
I think that's more valuable than yeah. Okay, the appointment didn't show up. Yeah, okay, well, I mean, don't worry about it.
Exactly.
Life's good.
Exactly. And I agree. That's the ups. Like every bit of downside has its upside. It's like, okay, less reliable electricity and internet. Well, it also means we have more nature and we're just less
Yeah,
urbanized and less industrialized. So like it's just more nature. While people skip the scheduled meetings or are late sometimes, well, it just means that people are more relaxed and in general less stressed. In Europe, in Canada, people are stressed the whole thing, like the whole time.
yeah,
And so it just, I think and like, far from friends and family, it's just an inevitable. It's just, it comes with it.
yeah,
It can, like moving anywhere has that.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
So, that's good. That's good. Overall, I think you're satisfied with your decision, as I am too.
yeah.
And, what is there? Okay. So my next question would be, what would make you come back to the Netherlands? What would make you like admit or think, get to a point where you think like, oh, actually, this was a mistake? Are there anything you've thought that could get you to that point?
Um, I think if there's a serious security problem for my family, that's not worth it for me to be in Mexico. If there's a problem like with family or friends back in the Netherlands that I really need, would be able to be there for like friends and family or solve their problems, to physically be there, I would go back. And
Right.
also, yeah, because my wife it was not her decision to join me. Eventually, she agreed, and she was like, "Okay, let's do this." So we really made the decision together. But it was basically my decision, or my idea. We also said, okay, if my wife really doesn't feel comfortable anymore, or really wants to go back, we go back. Um, my relationship is more important than the location where I live.
I understand. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so that makes sense. It's but it's nothing like you can endure the downsides you've mentioned. Like
Oh yeah.
if they're endurable, they're okay because the upsides are worth the downside.
The upsides are so much more worth it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, basically our plan is that if we have our businesses up and running, and we can really like generate stable income without having to work that much every day, then we want to have like, I don't know, like 3 months in a year living or in the Netherlands, so we can just spend like summer in the Netherlands with friends and family. We also think it's important that our daughter gets familiar with like her grandma and grandpas, and with our friends. And then the rest of the year we can spend in Mexico. And then you basically don't have that much of the downside anymore, because you can avoid a little bit of the rain season here that we have here locally at least. And
Right.
yeah, like the advantages of the Netherlands, like the multicultural food that my wife likes.
Yeah, for sure.
Less mosquitoes in the rain season, so you're gonna like shift and have best of both worlds then. Yeah.
Exactly, because you move here that you cannot go back and you cannot have like a hybrid lifestyle where you can be at both places depending on the time of the year, or even like at a third place, a third location,
Yeah.
just like the and have multiple passports or residencies, the flag theory, right?
Yeah.
That some people are into.
Yeah, I think the flag theory is really important. I'm not sure if, like, your listeners are really familiar with it, but it's basically that you have like you have your passport of the country where you were born. That's your passport. Then you have like your residency. That's the place where you live, and also your tax residency. And or at least that's the way we are doing it now. And we are optimizing our tax strategy, and we have more places in the world where we can be. And the advantage of having a daughter in Mexico is also really a big benefit, because our daughter is now a Mexican. She's Dutch and
Yeah,
Mexican, so she has two
big
passports.
advantage.
So for the future of my daughter, she has a lot more opportunities and like visa-free travel for countries that, I mean, the Netherlands perhaps doesn't have that, or easier for Mexican people, or vice versa. Yeah, so that there are a lot of benefits to optimizing your life about being a customer of a country.
Certainly. Interesting. So, okay, so one question that I wanted to follow up on was just a second, let me check my note. Yeah, it was when we first got into contact, you mentioned a program, a tax program in Mexico for like foreign income, and you've also mentioned it during this discussion. So, can you share like what the name of the program, the details, what like how you found about that, and like how to be a part of that? Because like I'm not a part of that yet, and I know I'm curious to hear the details personally, and I know a lot of people want to hear more about this.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So there's this problem or program. It's a tax regime in Mexico. They call it, and it's the name is Recico. And the way I understood, I mean, I'm not a tax lawyer or anything like that. I'm just like an immigrant, and I have my accountant that advises on these kind of topics. But what I understood is that basically life was a little bit complicated for a lot of people that are sourcing foreign income, and the Mexican government created a program to make it easier for people that are like generating income from abroad that flows into Mexico to have a completely transparent tax program. There's really not that much you need to know. It's just like the income you generate as how you call it in English? It's like a business without employees. How would you describe it?
Uh, well, like self-employment.
Yeah, like say if you're self-employed, yeah. Then you can generate income online, so money flows into Mexico, and you pay maximum 2.5 or 3% taxes.
Yeah,
So
it's extremely low.
it's extremely low, yeah. And you can have your opinions about whether you think a tax is theft, or if you get value for your money and all those kind of things. But you can just like actively look for a location in the world where you think, okay, this is at least an increased or an optimization in my tax situation. And Mexico offers that with the Recico program. So yeah, why wouldn't you move to Mexico? It's basically the bottom line. Because what I said earlier, if your currency devalues or inflates 5% per year in 14 years, you have your buying power, your savings. So yeah, you can do the calculation what like 40% tax reduction does per year over 14 years.
For sure,
Yeah.
it's a lot of money. I think just to give a few more details, Risico is available to companies too that have foreign income, and it's but there's a max amount like for individuals, self-employed individuals. I think it's like 3.5 million pesos,
Yeah.
which comes out to like 180,000 US dollars a year. But it's a lot of money. Like it's like if you're making 180 grand, you can live in Mexico, permanent residency, and pay 3% in taxes and just have a lower cost of living, basically save 90% of your income in Bitcoin every month. Like it's great, you know? So definitely a good trick. I've heard some downsides about it, to be honest, but it's mostly from like Mexican, like very base Mexican perspective. So like they will say like, okay, this is a way for the government to get people to sign up for the tax ID. And
Yeah.
then everybody's within the system, and then they raise the rates later, like kind of in a way to trap you in, like, hey, here's a good deal, come get come sign up to the tax registry.
Mm-hmm.
Then you sign up, and then boom, you're kind of they got your information.
I
I
get
wouldn't
that.
be too worried, you know, like, but it is like because like half of the Mexicans don't have tax IDs, they just don't pay taxes. So the government's trying to do anything to get anybody to sign up to the tax registry.
Yeah, I
But
can.
it's a good deal, right?
Yeah, I can understand the perspective of these based Mexicans, because if I wouldn't have a tax registry in the Netherlands, I would be exactly the same and have exactly the same opinion. Because Mexico is a tax or a cash economy. You can do everything cash. So why would you
Right.
sign up for taxes? But as I explained, if you consider my situation where I paid 7 months in the year in taxes and I can reduce it to basically
Exactly.
3%, it's a huge improvement from a personal situation. And then you go a little bit deeper in, like, okay, but what if the government raises taxes like you mentioned? I saw the president of El Salvador. He just announced that he's going to eliminate all taxes on software-related activities. So that means, as far as I understood,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, it's
crazy.
like a tweet, that every digital entrepreneur can live tax-free in El Salvador. So that keeps government in Central America like competing for the digital entrepreneurs, in my perspective.
It does. It definitely does. And Paraguay also offers those for a long time good residency, like good taxes. And El Salvador's joining. Costa Rica also has a pretty good program.
Yeah.
Panama, Mexico now. So, and actually, I think there's like four other countries that you don't have to pay foreign tax on, like tax on foreign income, because this is all about foreign income. In El Salvador's case, about like digital internet software income, but in Mexico's case, it's about foreign income. So it's foreign companies, not national companies.
Yeah.
But in most expats, they're not getting paid by Mexican companies. So why not just take advantage of this?
Yeah, I see that it's an opportunity for the Mexican government to get additional income and not per se to trap people in their tax regime. But I mean, I can totally understand the point of view from the Mexicans that you mentioned earlier, that if you are not in the tax regime, you don't want to be in it, right? So, yeah.
Exactly. Okay,
It's
interesting.
personal situations.
Yeah, exactly. It all depends on each one's situation, like you said. So, what about? Well, let's maybe recap. I think we've kind of done, the whole tour on this topic. Maybe recap on. Well, just another question is like have you traveled to other places in Mexico, or just around the continent, or do you have any plans of traveling in the near term on anything you want to look at, compare?
Great question. Well, we traveled a lot before we went to Mexico. So as I said, we went to Asia. We went to all over Europe. I visited countries in Latin America like Colombia, Brazil, like Caribbean islands, and I do want to travel, but I feel that I'm living like I'm here now for over a year. That I've been on holiday for a year. There's so much to discover, explore in my little region where I live, because everything is new. So everything feels like an holiday. There's a new coffee place around the corner that I've never been before, and they have great coffee. These little things that you don't have in the place you were born. You do have that here, right? And right now we don't have the urge to travel that much. But we were talking about it a few weeks ago, and we said, okay, well, we live now in Mexico, so if we want to go to like El Salvador, Guatemala, like you have Bitcoin Beach, you have Bitcoin Lake in Guatemala. Those things are now really close. So if we want to travel, then these would be the countries that we want to visit. But also, yeah, I mean, Mexico is just as big as the entire Europe. So yeah, we have so much things to do. And yeah, we really like the life we are living now. We just have a family. We are really enjoying every minute of it, and the urge of traveling is really reduced. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Take your time with that, and whenever you're ready, things are just right next. El Salvador's really close. You're always welcome to Querétaro too. We have monthly meetups here about Bitcoin. It's starting to grow pretty fast, so yeah. But with time.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so let's recap. So maybe if you could just recap the question, like how do you compare living in Europe versus living in Mexico in beach on the coast of Mexico? If you could recap, just give a recap answer on that.
Yeah. Like really, like a summary is that the life that I led, I describe it now as the fiat life in the Netherlands. People are stressed. Everything's on time. You're on the couch in the evening. You're not really productive beside your work. You're not. At least I'm not really. I didn't have the feeling that I was like a value, adding value to society, or like doing something really interesting. And now my life is, at least I have the feeling that I'm doing that, right? I'm working on Bitcoin, and I mean, it's not that big, right? I mean, I'm just doing my part. And I try to add value. We try to create with Find AVA the world that we want to see, where people live online, or at least like be able to create value and be productive online. And yeah, the life here. I think we are the owners of our time now. We are not. We don't have a boss that decides that we have to be in the office between 9 and 5. We decide if we want to go have a coffee in the morning and work in the afternoon, or do groceries in the afternoon and have a long session of work in the morning or in the evening. So we are the boss of our own time. We take responsibility of our actions, and we also feel that we are responsible. Where I think that in the Netherlands you would think, I can ask for the government here to do this, or you have like how do you call it? People that don't work get money from the government in the Netherlands. Those
Yeah,
things that I don't think they really exist on a large scale in Mexico. So you need to be able to provide for yourself, and that is a much more fulfilling life than we had in the Netherlands. A much freer life.
yeah, exactly. I agree. I think it's really about being in Europe or in Canada like a piece in the whole system. Like a screw in the whole machine.
Yeah,
And yeah, you can rely on the machine but like you're really not being very productive. It's not fulfilling. You're not free. And here it's like, okay, maybe you're part of the machine's not that big and not that powerful, but at
yeah.
least you're independent and you're free on your own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to my friends, I'm making like the analogy. I'd rather be the lion in Africa outside than the lion in the zoo in the Netherlands.
Exactly. That's very well said. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, maybe before we end, is there anything about the like just maybe just on the Bitcoin topic that excites you lately that you've seen any development or technology or market adoption or company, whatever you want to share about like Bitcoin stuff that you want to shout out or just you like?
Yeah. What I want to. There's not that much that really excites me. I mean, Bitcoin excites me in general, and what I think is great is that people that are in Bitcoin are really open to work together, to help each other, to contribute to each other's projects. Um, where in the field world, everybody's like, nah, this is my business, you're a competitor, and this is my money. And Bitcoiners are like, okay, let's get on the mission. We have one mission. We're gonna get Bitcoin to as many productive people as possible. I'm not there to have like the hyper Bitcoinization perspective that everybody needs to use Bitcoin. I would like to see like the remnants have Bitcoin, and like the people that work for it, that put in the work, and that really deserve to get the benefits out of it. That they help each other and build the world that we want to see, so that my daughter in like 20 years can live in a world that I envision right now. And everybody that's working in Bitcoin is, in that respect, for me, or I respect that really a lot because everybody's putting in a lot of work for a vision. I sometimes call it that we like are planting trees or seeds for trees that we will never sit in the shades, but we do really believe in that future, and that deserves all of our energy, every single little bit of it.
I really agree. I really like the way you phrase that. I put a marker so that I can like separate that clip and share it. Awesome. Well, thank you, Aaron, for this. Where can people follow you? Where can people on which website? What's the website of Bitcoin Partners or any other? Just anything you want to shout out where people can reach out to you or follow you.
Yeah, so if people want to follow me, they can follow me on Twitter right now. My Twitter handle is Aaron with double R, double A, RON 21R. My website for Bitcoin Partner is bitcoin-partner.nl. The website for Find a VA is findava.today. And I think I'm gonna have to find some time to get a Nostr account, and I think the NPub would be a little bit too long to share on the,
Yeah,
the
for sure.
podcast, but I'm going to be there as well soon.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Aaron. This was a really good talk.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to me. And let's keep in touch. And if you're ever in Querétaro, you're always welcome to my house to the meetup.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Same for you here in my side of the country.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.